Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the New Bedford Civil War Roundtable, I would like to welcome you to our annual Memorial Day service here at Rural Cemetery. Each year, we gather in the Civil War section of Rural Cemetery to honor the memory of those from New Bedford and the surrounding communities who served as soldiers and sailors during the American Civil War. My name is Mark Mello, and I'm the president of the New Bedford Civil War Roundtable. It is my privilege to welcome every one of you here this morning. On behalf of our board of directors and our membership, I would like to thank you for taking this time out of your holiday weekend to join us for this fitting ceremony to remember the sacrifice of these individuals who are buried here around us. For 4 bloody years, Americans fought Americans in a struggle over power and liberty. Whether this nation would be one united union or 2 separate confederacies, and whether nearly 4 million people held within the bondage of slavery would remain so or would be set free. The struggle was the bloodiest in American history. It left communities scarred both literally and figuratively. It saw a generation of Americans lost. Those that survived bore the wounds, both physical and mental, for the rest of their days. And in the end, a nation united still had a long way to go towards achieving equality and equity for all of its citizens. Buried within this cemetery are individuals like Ezra D. Chase, who served in the 20th Massachusetts Regiment, Company G. A local farmer before the war, Chase was captured at Ball's Bluff early in the war, and then later would be wounded at the battles of Antietam, and then again at the Battle of Fredericksburg. He survived those wounds only to be killed at the Battle of Cold Harbor on June 9, 1864. Also buried in this cemetery is James P. Shepard. Shepard served in the 18th Massachusetts Regiment. He was shot in the chest at the Battle of Gettysburg, and he would later die of his wounds 3 excruciating weeks later on July 24, 1863, in an Army hospital just outside of Philadelphia. He was only 18 years old. This morning, as we take some time out of our busy holiday weekend, we remember the lives of those who fought and died during the American Civil War, fighting for that core, fundamental truth that we all have value. In a country continually torn by division in our own time, let each of us here this morning remember that as President Lincoln reminded those gathered at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania in November of 1863, there is still a great task remaining before each of us. I would now like to invite you to stand if you are able and to remove your hats for the presentation of the colors by the New Bedford Junior ROTC, and then please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Forward! March! Forward! Halt! Present! Arms! Sir, permission to post the colors. Sir,
Post the colors.
thank you. Sir, order! Arms! Center, face! Ready, post! Guard! Halt! Post the colors.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Arms!
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order! Arms! Center, face! Forward! March! Guard! Halt! Pull out!
I ask that you please remain standing, and I now would like to invite Father Michael Racine, pastor of the Whaling City Catholic Community, to offer the invocation.
in the quiet sanctuaries of our hearts. Let each of us name and call on the one whose power over us is great and gentle, firm and forgiving, holy and healing. You who created us, who sustain us, who call us to live in peace, hear our prayer this day. Hear our prayer for all who have died, whose hearts and hopes are known to you alone. Hear our prayer for those who put the welfare of others ahead of their own, and give us hearts as generous as theirs. Hear our prayers for those who gave their lives in the service of others, and accept the gift of their sacrifice. Help us to shape and to make a world where we will lay down the arms of war and turn our swords into plowshares for a harvest of justice and peace. Comfort those who grieve the loss of their loved ones, and let your healing be the hope in our hearts. Hear our prayer this day, and in your mercy answer us, in the name of all that is holy. The peace of God be with you.
You may be seated. On May 5th, 1868, General John A. Logan, former Union Army officer and then the Commander-in-Chief of the Grand Army of the Republic, an organization of former Union Army soldiers, issued General Order Number 11. This order called for a National Day of Remembrance of Civil War dead. Originally referred to as Decoration Day, this order became the basis of the holiday we commemorate here today, Memorial Day. I now invite Judge Joseph Michaud, retired Lieutenant Colonel and board member of the Round Table, to read Logan's General Order Number 11.
Good morning. Attention orders. General Order Number 11. The 30th of May, 1868 is designated for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion, and whose bodies now lie in almost every city, village, and hamlet churchyard in the land. In this observance, no form of ceremony is prescribed, but posts and comrades will, in their own way, arrange such fitting services and testimonials of respect as the circumstances may permit. We are organized, comrades, as our regulations tell us, for the purpose, among other things, of preserving and strengthening those kind and fraternal feelings which have bound together the soldiers, sailors, and Marines who united to suppress the late rebellion. What can aid more to assure this result than by cherishing tenderly the memory of our heroic dead who made their breasts a barricade between our country and its foes? The soldier lives where the reverie of freedom to erase in chains and their deaths in the tattoo of the rebellious tyranny in arms. We should guard the graves with sacred vigilance. All that the consecrated wealth and taste of this nation can add to their adornment and security is but a fitting tribute to the memory of her slain defenders. Let no wanton foot tread rudely upon such hallowed grounds. Let pleasant paths invite the coming and going of reverent visitors and fond mourners. Let no vandalism or avarice or neglect, nor ravages of time testify to the present or to the coming generations that we have forgotten as a people the cost of a free and undivided republic. If other eyes grow dull and other hands slacken and other hearts grow cold in the solemn trust, ours shall keep it well as long as the light and warmth of life remains within us. Let us, at the time appointed, gather around their sacred remains and garland the passionless mounds above them with the choicest flowers of springtime. Let us raise above them the dear old flag they saved from dishonor. Let us, in this solemn presence, renew our pledges to aid and assist those whom they have left among us as sacred charges upon the nation's gratitude, the soldiers and sailors, widow and orphan. 2. It is the purpose of the Commander-in-Chief to inaugurate this observance with the hope that it will be kept up from year to year while a survivor of the war remains to honor the memory of his comrades. He earnestly desires that the public press to call attention to this order and lend its friendly aid in bringing to the notice of comrades in all parts of the country in time for simultaneous compliance therewith. 3. Department commanders will use every effort to make this order effective by the command of John A. Logan, General, retired USA Commander-in-Chief, as posted by N.P. Chipman, Adjutant General.
Thank you, Judge Michaud. Unfortunately, Mayor Mitchell was not able to join us this morning because of a prior familial commitment, but we are very lucky today that the mayor has appointed Robert Bromley to speak in his stead. Bob Bromley volunteers a great deal of his time to local veterans. Just chatting with Bob before, and his Memorial Day weekend is something certainly that is very impressive how much Bob is doing this weekend. He's a longtime member of the New Bedford's Veterans Advisory Board, currently serving as the chairman, which originally managed the restoration of the Veterans Monument, but has also begun providing a broader scope of outreach to local veterans to fill the void left by a depleting number of veterans organizations in the city. Bromley is one of the founding members of the Fort Tabor-Fort Rodman Military Museum in New Bedford South End and serves as the museum's curator. Bromley also organizes and marches in the annual New Bedford Memorial Day and Veterans Day parades. I now would like to welcome to the podium Bob Bromley for our keynote address.
Thank you, Mark. As he said, the mayor is indisposed. He has a family commitment. One of his daughters is graduating from college, so that is a key point in your family life that you have to attend. I know what he would normally say is that he thanks the Civil War Roundtable of New Bedford for the dedication each year of coming to Rural Cemetery and calling attention to the Civil War GAR plot here in the center of the cemetery. About 16 years ago is when the Roundtable began taking on the services that had been vacant for about 25 years. Every Memorial Day morning, as a child, I was here at the 7 o'clock in the morning for the first service of that weekend, of that Memorial Day, to be here with the Sons of Union Veterans. Well, that was one of the organizations that has faded away from New Bedford's history. And the Roundtable, in about 2009, took on the services here at the plot. They have also taken on restoration of the cannons that you see around the plot, as well as the newly being established with the restoration of the stones. So on behalf of the city of New Bedford, we want to again thank the Civil War Roundtable of New Bedford for their dedication to this plot. As alluded to, New Bedford has always been tremendous for its veterans. It has the highest per capita in the state of Massachusetts of veterans. But particularly during the Civil War, many of the men marched out in a lot of the units that you may have heard of. They formed originally of the City Guards that went out as Company A of the 3rd Mass. They saw all the action through the Army of the Potomac. They marched out with Colonel Timothy Ingraham, the Ingraham School, under Company A of the 18th Mass. They went out as Company B of the 4th Massachusetts Cavalry, of which 3 of their members received the nation's highest award, the Medal of Honor, of which 2 of them are buried here in the city. They marched out as a section of the 5th Massachusetts Artillery that saw action throughout, again, Virginia, Pennsylvania campaigns. And importantly, they marched out as the Toussaint Guards, was Company C of the 54th Massachusetts, that was the only company that marched into the training camp at Reedville, organized. New Bedford was committed to the Civil War. It sent off its ships to be used as blockades, to be sunk into the harbors of the Confederacy to prevent the further supplying of the Confederate Army. New Bedford made a lot of sacrifices, lost a lot of men, and today, starting in 1868, but importantly with New Bedford, in 1866, began to honor those men who did not come home. So again, we thank you. Councilor Sean Oliver from Ward 3 is also here, and I know he would like to thank everyone for their attendance here at today's service. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bromley. I would now like to invite Roundtable Board Member Jack Richer for the reading of President Lincoln's Gettysburg Address.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to be reading the Bliss copy. The Bliss copy of the Gettysburg Address is the one if you go to the memorial of Lincoln's Memorial on the south wall. This is the copy that is engraved into the side of the monument. So, here we go. 87 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who gave here their lives that the nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here, dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. That this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Signed by Abraham Lincoln, November 19th, 1863. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richer. In 1863, Walter Kittredge, a soldier and songwriter, penned a haunting and beautiful song called Tenting on the Old Campground, or Tenting Tonight. It was a favorite of soldiers during the war, and it is a poignant reminder of the cost of war. I would now like to invite soloist Caroline Blaze to perform Tenting Tonight.
We're tenting tonight on the old campground. Give us a song to cheer our weary hearts, a song of hope and friends we love so dear. Many are the hearts that are weary tonight, wishing for the war to cease. Many are the hearts looking for the right to see the dawn of peace. Tenting tonight, tenting tonight, tenting on the old campground. We're tenting tonight on the old campground, thinking of days gone by, of the loved ones at home that gave us the hand and the tear that said goodbye. Many are the hearts that are weary tonight, wishing for the war to cease. Many are the hearts looking for the right to see the dawn of peace. Tenting tonight, tenting tonight, tenting on the old campground.
Thank you, Ms. Blaze. I now would like to invite Ruth and Abby, the 1850s ladies from the Bedford Whaling National Historical Park, accompanied today by myself for the laying of the floral wreath. Thank you, ladies. I now invite us all, if you are able, to please rise for a gun salute provided by the 2nd Rhode Island, Company K, and followed by the sounding of taps by Sergeant First Class Robert Souza of the 215th Army Band, Massachusetts Army National Guard.
Reset. Arms.
Hey. Hey. Ready. Hey. Fire. Go. Ready. Hey. Fire. Recover fast. Recover fast. Order. Arms.
You may be seated. I now invite Caroline Blaze to lead us in the singing of the Battle Hymn of the Republic, accompanied by Larry Roy.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He has loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible sword. His truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. I have seen him in the watchfires of 100 circling camps. They have builded him an altar in the evening dews and I can read his righteous sentence by the dim and flaring lamps. His day is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
Thank you, Ms. Blaze and Mr. Roy. I now would like to invite Roundtable Vice President Peter Rio, who will lead us in the benediction. If you are able, please rise.
I chose as my benediction 2 tribute poems written by Poet Laureate Stephen Spender and America's most renowned 19th century poet, Walt Whitman. And as I express them, you may want to gaze upon the hallowed resting places of those who gave their lives to save the Union and make immortal their patriotism and their virtue. Stephen Spender's the truly great. I think continually of those who were truly great, the names of those who in their lives fought for life, who wore at their hearts the fire's center, born of the sun. They traveled a short while toward the sun, then left the vivid air signed with their honor. And from Walt Whitman's A Twilight Song. As I sit in twilight laid alone by the flickering oak flame, musing on the long past war scenes of the gathered dead from all America, north, south, east, west, and whence they came up, from wooded Maine, New England's farms, from fertile Pennsylvania, Illinois, and Ohio. Again I see the stalwart ranks filing, rising. I hear the rhythmic tramp of the armies, each name recalled by me from out of the darkness, the death's ashes. Henceforth to be deep, deep within my heart, recording for many a future year, embalmed with love in this twilight song. And as I close this benediction, may they eternally reside in God's watchful and loving embrace.
Thank you, Mr. Rio. You may all be seated. I have spent a lot of time in Civil War sections of cemeteries. It's a historian thing. But I think that there's no better way to learn about our past and the people who come before us than to actually visit those people, and at least their mortal remains, as they are here on the world. And on many Civil War graves, I have oftentimes seen the epitaph, "It is sweet and pleasant to die for one's country." It is sweet and pleasant to die for one's country. That quote has its origins in ancient times in ancient Rome. The poet Horace was the first one to write it. But it highlights this sense of pride and honor for sacrificing one's life for one's nation. A few thousand years later, shortly after World War I, the famous poet Wilfred Owen, in his poem by that very same name, called that quote the old lie. When one looks at the sacrifice of many of the individuals buried here around us, some in this very plot, we see struggle. We see an Azorean whaler, right over there behind the group. His name was Manuel Antone. He served in the U.S. Navy for about a year and lived the rest of his life suffering from hearing loss in his left ear as a result of his service. He would spend the rest of his life in a fight with the government for disability pay that he was owed. Maybe some things haven't changed all that much. An Irish immigrant, located behind me here, his tombstone knocked over. His name's John R. Kincaid. He was severely wounded in the left arm outside of Petersburg, Virginia. Captured and then later released, his left arm was later amputated, and he would tragically die 10 years later at the age of 33 as a result of that wound that he had received 10 years earlier. I think Manuel and John would both agree that there was nothing sweet or pleasant about their service. But I do ask, was their sacrifice worth it? Was their sacrifice necessary? Their service in part ensured the preservation of the Union, and liberation of over 4 million people held in the bondage of chattel slavery. And we must also never forget the sacrifices of the mothers, fathers, wives, sons, daughters, and friends who had to rebuild their lives with many a vacant chair at their family tables. In the midst of a weekend that is often touted as the unofficial start of summer, and it is a beautiful day today, at least we have blue skies, thank God, but it doesn't quite feel like summer just yet. With cookouts and parties, beaches and games, it's important that we remember the true meaning of this holiday, why we gather here this morning. A time to remember those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for their country on battlefields not just in the American Civil War, but also across our country and across the world. And to remember that although democracy can be messy, and boy is it messy, we are lucky to live in a place where no one has to bow, no one is born to royalty, where ideally people are judged by the character and not who their parents were. Now more than ever, we must continue to remember that truth, that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, not any political party or individual. And the Constitution and the Union that these men laying here at rest, and their spouses and loved ones also here with them, sacrificed to defend. I want to sincerely thank all of you for joining us here this morning for a simple but fitting remembrance of the sacrifice of those soldiers and sailors from New Bedford who fought during the American Civil War. It is our organization's intent to continue that work of remembering and commemorating these veterans by undergoing a cleaning project of the graves, many of which you can see are in bad need of it, to provide that desperate care that they need. I want to encourage folks to also join us this Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock for our monthly meeting. I'll be giving a presentation about 3 of the individuals who are buried here to highlight the importance of the preservation of these stones and the fact that although they may be simple stones, they do have meaning. These stones remind us of stories of sacrifice. Now I invite you all to stand if you are able, and I would like to invite the New Bedford Junior ROTC to retire the colors.
Forward. March.
fire the colors.
Thank you, sir. Order, arms. Center, face. Ready, pulse. Guard, pull. Silence. Center, face. Forward, march. Guard, pull. Call out.
Sincerely, thank you all for coming out. This was a great turnout this morning. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy weekend to join us for this hopefully fitting ceremony to remember those who sacrificed their lives in the American Civil War. Now I would like to invite folks, if you'd like, we have donuts and coffee under the fly tent over there. So please help yourselves to those and have a great holiday weekend, everyone. Thank you.